It's Friday, everyone. What do we do on Fridays here at the Hint Hive? That's right, we smash the patriarchy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another empowering episode of the Hint Hive, Amplifying Women's Voices. I'm your host, Kelly Hint, Queen Bee of this hive, and today we're talking about a topic that can affect us all deeply, no matter where we live: political division in the United States. This issue has seeped into every aspect of our lives, from our country to our families and our relationships. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's have a heart-to-heart. So before we jump in, I'm going to first and foremost acknowledge that I'm living in the United States, and so that's where my frame of reference is. I know that I have listeners in other countries, and I also know that other countries are affected when there is political division in the US, but also I'm willing to bet that a lot of listeners can relate to their own countries also. So my listeners in other countries, I'm not excluding you from this. You may very well relate strongly depending on the country that you're in. You may have experienced this yourself also. So again, just putting it out there that this is coming from the perspective of a citizen of the United States. And I'm also going to say, before fully jumping in, as of the recording of this episode, I'm recording this way ahead of the time that it's going to be released. We are about, let's see. So it is Friday, last Saturday, so 6 days ago, the former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, it has been reported that there was an assassination attempt. I am purposefully not releasing this episode for a while because I need people to calm the hell down. Because again, that's the entire reason why I'm talking about this, is because the division in the US has gotten to a point where I just personally can't tolerate it anymore. And everybody that I'm talking to is just so weary and tired of it. And so I don't want to be part of the problem. I don't want to poke anyone's button. So I just need everyone to calm down a little bit so that you can hear me, because I'm going to say things that are going to piss you off. Especially, yeah, well, you'll discover that further in. But I feel these things need to be said. So again, that's why I am waiting to release this episode until things have calmed down a little bit. But given the state of the world, who knows? Something else may happen prior to me releasing this episode. So sorry if this is bad timing. Maybe I'll pull it. Who knows? All right, let's jump into it. So, unfortunately, political division is not just something that we see on TV or read about online. It is something that many of us experience firsthand, whether it's at the Thanksgiving dinner table or in the comments section of our social media feeds. That's where I'm getting quite weary, to be very honest. The impact of political division is everywhere. So let's start by looking at the bigger picture. The United States was founded on the principles of democracy, where diverse opinions and healthy debates were meant to strengthen us. But somewhere along the way, those debates turned into divisive battles. We see it in Congress, where bipartisan cooperation is rare, and we see it in our communities, where neighbors sometimes feel like enemies. This kind of division weakens our country. When we are busy fighting each other, we are not addressing the real issues that need our attention. Like healthcare, education, the environment, foreign policy, all that fun stuff. So I'm just going to pause for a minute and let that really sink in. When we are busy fighting each other, we are not addressing the real issues. And now let's bring it closer to home. Think about the last time you had a disagreement with a family member or a close friend over politics. How did it make you feel? Chances are, it was not a pleasant experience. Political division can damage our most cherished relationships. It can create rifts between parents and children, siblings, friends, and even romantic partners. These rifts aren't just disagreements. They can lead to long-lasting emotional scars. And it is heartbreaking to see families torn apart over political views, especially when we realize that at the core, we all want what's best for our loved ones and our country. I can tell you from firsthand experience, I am dealing with the pain of political division within my own family. It hurts me. It hurts me deeply. And as you will, I'm sure, come to realize, if you haven't already, I'm the black sheep of my family of origin, the family that I was born into. I'm talking my immediate family. I am the only one who is not a conservative, a Republican, however you want to categorize. So that leaves me out in the cold. And it hurts. I have had people outside of my immediate family, but still within my family. There are people that have distanced themselves from me. There are people who have disowned me. People who treat me like crap just because I am not a Republican. Just because I'm not somebody who's conservative. Now notice that I'm not saying because I'm a Democrat, because I'm a liberal. I'm not using those words. Why? Because I effing hate politics and I refuse to be aligned with any political party because my personal beliefs are that there are more politicians full of crap than there are politicians who are wanting to do better, wanting to do good for the good of this country. So I refuse to align myself with any political party. You do you, but don't you dare tell me what I have to do. Don't you dare tell me that I have to label myself because I refuse. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that eventually, maybe. So, just knowing that there are also relationships that I have lost that can never be fixed because people that I have not seen eye to eye with are no longer on this earth. And that hurts me because I know that in some of those relationships, politics actually played a part in the division. And not on my part, because I'm sorry, I don't treat people like crap because of their views. I will treat you like crap if you treat me like crap, 9 times out of 10, depending on the situation. But I don't judge people for their belief systems. I judge people on how you treat others. But you know what? It does not have to be this way. We, the people, have the power to change the narrative and foster unity, even in the face of political differences. Why are we looking to elected officials to unite us? For F's sake, people, we can do this within our own homes, within our own families, within our own relationships. The key lies in empathy, understanding, And hello, communication. So before I get even more heated, I want to talk about a couple of steps that we can take to bridge the divide. So the first piece here is to listen actively. Instead of planning your rebuttal when someone else is speaking, truly listen to what they have to say. Try to understand their perspective and where they are coming from. This does not mean that you have to agree, but it does mean that you respect their right to have a different opinion. And I know that some people will argue with me on this and say, but I don't have to listen to anyone who's trampling on human rights. And listen, I get it. I'm with you. I'm probably more with you than you understand. However, haven't you ever heard of getting to know your enemy? If you are looking at somebody, excuse me, who has a difference of opinion on something, or if you think they're fundamentally evil, get to learn the inner workings of their mind. Try to understand where they're coming from, because guess what? You cannot argue with someone unless you get it, unless you fully understand where they're coming from, because that's where you can find ways to poke holes in some of these major, major issues. And how about finding common ground? When you have somebody in your life that you care about and they differ so strongly on a political belief system, focus on the values and goals that you share. That's a starting point. You might disagree on how to achieve certain things, but chances are you both want a better future for your community and your country. And then educate yourself. I cannot stress this enough. I'm telling you, if you are getting your information from memes on Facebook, don't bother. Do not bother to have an argument with me, because I'm going to shred you. Now, chances are I'm not going to have the argument with you in the first place, because I probably have already judged you as being somebody who's ignorant and not looking into factual pieces of information on your own, but instead regurgitating political talking points, whether it's from the left or the right. I don't care. When I hear the party line nonsense, I shut down. I'm not going to listen to it. Have your own original thoughts, okay? Take time to learn about different viewpoints. Understanding the reasoning behind opposing views can help you have more productive conversations and maybe even find solutions that you hadn't considered before. For example, and I know that women's reproductive rights are a hot button topic. They are for me personally as a woman. I have very strong opinions on this, very strong feelings on this. But if I'm looking at somebody and trying to understand why they differ from me, so a big one is, I've talked before about pro-choice versus pro-life. I have said that I am pro-choice and my personal choice is life. I've also acknowledged that I have never been in the position to have to make that choice. So that comes from, a very privileged place to be able to hope that I would do a certain thing, that I have never actually been in the position to make that decision before. So if I'm talking to somebody who is pro-life, instead of looking at it from my perspective, which is, who the hell do you think you are telling me what I can and can't do with my body? Right? You see how immediately that's defensive, and I'm coming at it from a perspective of, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight you. You don't get to do that to my body. Instead, if I try to see it from their perspective, what is their perspective? Well, most of the people that I have talked to who are pro-life believe that life begins at conception and that there is a living, breathing human inside another body, and they don't want to see that life extinguished. And so I look at it from that standpoint, and it takes the anger out of it, because they're not in. When I look at it from that perspective, I don't see an evil person trying to impose their views on my body. I see a compassionate person who simply wants to save babies. Whether I disagree on various points in all of this, it doesn't matter. I need to find the humanity if I'm going to have a conversation with someone. Now, don't get me wrong. I get really pissed when I do all this work and people that I'm talking to don't do the work and they just keep attacking me. And so I won't have a conversation about it. As a matter of fact, I was having an argument with a group of people at one point, and I was the only one in that group of people who had given birth. And also, I am a therapist who has worked with children who have been sexually assaulted, and including full rape, penetrative sex that could have resulted in a pregnancy. So I see this from multiple perspectives, and I got mad because I was not being listened to. I was not being given the respect to talk about my experience having worked with young girls who could have been impregnated at age 11. I was just trying to get the people I was talking to see it from that perspective just for a minute. I wasn't trying to change their mind, because nobody's going to change my mind. So I'm not trying to change other people's minds. I'm trying to get people to open up and see things from a different perspective. That's it. And I was met with hostility. I had people throwing Bible verses at me. So I got mad and I slammed my hand down. Mind you, I was in a public place, so I made a bit of a spectacle. And I said, listen, as the only person here who has pushed children out of my vagina, I can tell you that it is a traumatic experience to both be sexually assaulted and give birth. And you want an 11-year-old to do that? An 11-year-old who has already been traumatized? And so there goes my ability to have a rational conversation because my emotions got in the way. I became so angry I could no longer see their perspective because they weren't seeing mine. So again, we have to weigh the benefits of having some of these conversations with some certain people. Because the next piece of this is to stay respectful. We've got to keep these conversations civil. The name-calling, shouting, and insults only escalate tensions. A respectful dialogue can actually open doors to understanding and cooperation, but it has to go both ways. And then the concept of agreeing to disagree. There's a fine line on this one. So it's okay to not see eye to eye on everything. What's important is maintaining the relationship and showing that you can coexist despite your differences. But there are certain things that we can't agree to disagree on. Like the value of human life, stuff like that. That's where a lot of these challenges come into play. When you treat groups of people like they are less than, there's no agreeing to disagree on that. So again, I know the line. I get it. But let's not forget the power of unity. When we come together, amazing things can happen. Just look at the civil rights movement. Look at women's suffrage or any other significant change in history. It all happened because people united for a common cause. Our diversity is our strength, and embracing it can lead to a more inclusive, compassionate, and innovative society. So let's challenge ourselves to rise above the noise and the negativity. Let's be the change. Let's be the change makers who bring people together, who build bridges instead of walls. We owe it to ourselves, our families, and our future generations to create a world where unity prevails over division. And again, before I get any hate mail, I really want to encourage you to try to hear me from a place of compassion, from a place of understanding. My life has shaped who I am. I believe the things I do because of the experiences that I've had. Okay, let me give you this example. I had a conversation with somebody who I'm related to, a male that I'm related to. And his viewpoint was that the financial state of the world, the financial state of this country right now is not good. And so that's where his priorities are when he makes the decision of which candidate to support. Okay. So that's his viewpoint. Now, and those are his experiences, right? If he's having a hard time financially, then that's where his focus is going to be. My focus is not there. Now, granted, I will say finances are a challenge for me also right now. As is most of the people in this country who are not incredibly wealthy. We are all struggling. The regular people, right? The people in the middle, we're struggling because the cost of everything has increased so rapidly and so much, and our wages are not catching up to that. So I understand why this person would say they are focusing on finances. But for me, as a woman who has had politics play a part in my own medical decisions, my own bodily autonomy, I can tell you that my priorities are a little bit different, even though I'm struggling financially with all of you. As a woman, my priority is going to be on women's rights, women's freedoms. And that's my right. That is my perspective. That is my life experience. And so I get to feel that way. What I don't get to do is call the other person names any more than he gets to call me names, right? So this is what I'm talking about. And again, the caveat to all of this is we're talking about issues, not certain experiences. Like I'm sorry, but there are certain things that I won't have discussions on with people because I can't handle the ignorance around certain subjects. I will not have conversations about racism with people that I know are not open to trying to understand perspectives other than their own. I've had very heartbreaking conversations with people, and I just, as a white woman, the fact that I'm a woman, I have experienced issues related to being a gender minority, and so I have empathy for racial minorities. And for somebody who has not had any of those experiences, any minority experiences whatsoever, I struggle to have conversations with them because their lack of empathy for people's experiences other than what they've experienced makes me very angry. And so I actively choose not to have those conversations. I have shut down conversations with close family members. I've said, I'm sorry, but this is not an issue that I'm willing to discuss, because I have chosen that I want to have relationships with some of these family members, regardless of our differences. And I don't want politics to play a part in it. Because like I said, I've already lost some family members because of politics. And I don't like giving politicians that kind of power in my own personal life. And the last thing that I want to say about all of this, I've heard disdain from people on both the left and right. People who are very extremely left or very extremely right. I've heard the disdain in their voice as they call me a centrist and they look down their nose at me. Well, again, let me tell you, from my perspective, I freaking have to be. I'm a therapist, okay? And we are taught as therapists how to be neutral, how to absorb our patients' experiences without judgment. I have had to listen. I've worked with pedophiles. And as a therapist working with a pedophile, I cannot pass judgment on him or her. Granted, all the ones I've worked with, they've been him, so I will use the pronoun him. I can't pass judgment on him because how am I going to help him if I'm looking at him as a piece of crap? I can't. And so I have been trained on how to give empathy and unconditional positive regard to people that I don't agree with. And so it has been trained into me to see all of the perspectives. And also, let me tell you, mental illness lies in extremes. Mental illness lies within black and white thinking. Black and white thinking is a cognitive distortion that I teach people how to break free from. And so when I see people on such extreme ends of issues, and you're looking down at me, calling me a centrist? No, I'm the sane person in the room. Thank you very much. I'm the one who is trying to hear all sides and bring about peace and unity. That's my place in this world. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. So if you want to look down your nose at me and call me a centrist, that's fine. I'm sorry that I'm not as perfect as you are, but okay, sarcasm. Not sorry at all, clearly. And I don't think you're perfect. I think you are rigid, and I think you are struggling to make change happen in this world because you're so stuck in your own thought process that you can't try to communicate with another. And again, this does not apply to some of the issues that should be black and white, right? Like, don't walk up to a random person on the street and smack them in the face for no reason. That's kind of a black and white issue. That's not what I'm talking about here. But I will continue to encourage people to try and think about things from other perspectives. You know, one thing that I have learned is that there's a time and a place for everything. And not every argument has to be a battle. Save your energy for the real battles, because let me tell you, the real battles come when people try to actively impose their will onto me. Whether it is somebody touching me when I have not given them permission, or somebody trying to harm me or a loved one actively, not just the idea of it, but the actual occurrence of it. That's a battle that I'm willing to fight. I am not willing to fight constant ignorance. I'm just not. And so I'm not going to take up that battle. And again, I'm not saying that you have to be friends with people who have such extreme differences in viewpoints. I'm not telling you that you have to stay close with family members who are affecting you so negatively. I'm not saying that at all. I choose to be around people who are uplifting. I choose to be around people who, even if we don't agree on things, we're not disagreeable with each other. I'm not going to spend my time with somebody who makes me feel crap about myself, who makes me feel like crap about myself. And so I'm not asking you to do that. I'm simply asking you to know the right battles to pick, because they don't all have to be a battle. If Uncle Bob is a diehard Biden fan, or Uncle Joe is a diehard Trump fan, guess what? Nothing you can say is going to change their minds, so why bother? If you want to have conversations with them to try and get them to hear different perspectives, have at it. But don't go into it thinking you're going to change their mind, because if they're that entrenched, they're not going to. So that's when you need to choose. Do I want to have a relationship with this person or not? Because they're not going to change who they are. They're not going to change their minds. Can I have a relationship with someone like that? That needs to be the question that we're asking, not trying to impose our wills on everyone else. But I will say, I'm going to continue to actively try to impose my will of equality for all on anyone listening. So don't listen to me anymore if you don't want me to try and brainwash you into being a decent human and fighting for equality for all humans. Okay? Just stop listening right now, because I am telling you that is my motivation. That is my ulterior motive. My ulterior motive to anyone listening right now is to encourage you to be the best version of yourself and to fight for the equality of others. So there you have it. I can't manipulate you any longer, because now you know what my mode of operation is. Now you know why I'm doing what I'm doing. But if you've been listening to the show for a while, you already know that. I'm not telling you anything new, am I? Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today on the Hint Hive Amplifying Women's Voices. I hope this episode has inspired you to think differently about political division and how we can heal the divides that affect us all. Remember, we have the power to make a difference, one conversation at a time. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your friends and family. Let's keep the conversation going and amplify the voices that need to be heard. Until next time, stay strong, stay united, and keep empowering each other. This is the Queen Bee signing off. Take care and see you in the next episode. This podcast is powered by Kelly Hint Empowerment Coaching, as well as Kelly M. Hint LMHC and The Cranky Counselor. To find out more about coaching services, head over to CoachKellyHint.com. If you'd like to know more about the psychotherapy services I offer to individuals within the state of New York, you can check out KellyMHint.com. And if you'd like to learn more about aromatherapy, you can check out TheCrankyCounselor.com.